This question was about the relationship of parents and children. How do the ancestors influence us? Our thinking, our psychology. How are we the product of our genetics? Or are we the product of our sanskaras? How does it play together? It is a very good question. The body you inhabit has a genetic coding. In the lifetime of a person, science is discovering the genetic coding is altered. The actual DNA and RNA are altered by the way a person lives their life. You can live longer or shorter. You change your telomeres by how you live your life. So environmental impact and the mental tendencies of a person alter their genetic code. And over time, genetics adapt. And so when you, as an individual consciousness, come to inhabit a physical form, that form has been the resultant genetic adaptation to environment, to the samskaras of the individuals in that genetic line. To reach the point where a certain coding exists, an adaptive coding, for there is biological adaptation always occurring, always, in big ways and in small. When, as a soul, you are drawn to the earth plane, you are drawn to a compatible, suitable form to take birth. There must be a degree of compatibility between the adaptive genetic coding existing in the physical form and the sanskaras of the individual. They may not be entirely matched, but to a degree there is a blending. For that which comes from the past to influence a person comes not only in a psychic form, it comes in a biophysical form, in the RNA and DNA of an individual. So when the fetus develops and the child develops, that is reflected in the person. If there was not a compatibility with the need to reincarnate and re-express, it would not be, the person would not be able to take that form, that body. So when a person takes a form, a body, when an animal, when any soul comes into a body, the collected experience that has formed that individual identity must be able to express through that physical form. And so, many times, the genetics will be very, very harmonious. And if there should be some lack of harmony because other forces are driving the soul into incarnation, forces of relationships to other beings that you come to be with, then the genetics also will be altered to accommodate the new soul entering. So their genetics are adaptive. Remember this, more adaptive than modern science realizes. And they adapt not only to environmental influences, but to the sanskaras of the being entering. According to the sanskaric tendencies that will immediately, even before birth, begin altering the genetics of that body. So your ancestors indeed live in you. But they are likely your true ancestors of many lives. And likely the strain of that ancestry is extremely harmonious with your being. Only under rare circumstances will it not be so. And then significant genetic adaptation occurs to the sanskaras of the individual. For example, many people came to be in physical form during the quote-unquote generation gap who were incompatible with the mentality of their parents. Those individuals were drawn to incarnate due to particular changes upon the planet and the incarnation of other individuals who they were there to be with. So their compatibility was with those things beyond the physical form. So many individuals incarnated with parental figures with whom they had minimal prior relations and were not necessarily compatible. So the genetic compatibility was less than is typical. What happens under those circumstances? Because other forces drew the incarnations, not the lineage of ancestors that you know. In those circumstances, great adaptation occurs. The bodies are changed by the sanskaras of the individuals incarnating. And a biological leap occurs at that time. The bodies adapt to the sanskaras of the individual. There is far more biological, genetic mobility than is realized in science today. Are there any questions on this point?
Yes, I have a question. Would this notion that people have prior relationships and tend to reincarnate together, does that explain the apparent wave of disciples that came to be close to Shrii Shrii Anandamurti, all just in one seeming group? There was a big confluence of people that came.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
after a period of time, not as many came that immediately recognized they had to be there.
This is a normal thing. Collective souls who are bound to each other, who have love for each other, who have attachment to each other, will incarnate together in small groups, in large groups. It is a normal occurrence. It is the way of it. You have people who you have been close to for lifetimes. They are your spiritual family. And you do not always incarnate together, but very often you are drawn to come at the same time, to meet, to be lovers, to be mates, to be husbands, wives, children, grandparents, or to be a part of a collective together. And dear friends, you will always come with these people. It is the way of it. Unless the sanskaras change, unless you have a mission that draws you elsewhere. The binding relationships of love and attachment in life are the greatest force to draw people to each other, to draw people into their collective, both in this world and beyond. These sanskaras pull people, the greatest needs of your heart, both in your attachment to people and in the personal workings of your mind, draw you to the situations where they can be expressed. So there are indeed group identities that maintain beyond a single life. All right?
Yes, Baba, to what extent do people tend to be their own ancestors?
Not so frequently. It can happen, but is a bit rare. More those who are of their lineage will be their ancestors. That is the most common. But it does not always happen that way. People will incarnate in a foreign situation because there is some greater purpose they are there. And perhaps they will later meet those who are their lineage. As I have discussed this one example.
will many of your devotees follow you to other planets, or may many of us stay here?
They will come. Many have come here. They are not from here. The strongest forces in your heart, the strongest forces in your life, in your relation, bind you together. Normally, this binding will tend to be in a planetary context, so that the primary bindings are incarnation of one place. But there are those who are wanderers, whose primary binding is not to a place and not to a group bound by place. But this is more rare.
Baba, are there new waves of your disciples that are coming in the future that have a different character and personality than the groups that were here in your physical incarnation in the body of Prabhat Ranjan Sarkar, that will collectively tilt your mission in different directions?
What happens on this planet will change and change again. And yes, they are a different soul group. You know, you meet some people, you feel immediately like you have known them forever.
Yes, Baba.
Other people you know a long time, and you never feel that connection, isn't it?
Yes, Baba.
It is because they are from different soul groups. Your soul has not been linked to them. They have never been your lover, your child, your mother or father. They have never been your best friend. Others you have had many relations to, and you have affinity with them. You're naturally drawn like a magnet into that affinity. Others, there has never been established an affinity. If it develops, it will be new. And it will take time. You see?
Yes. Baba, how many of your disciples can become Mukta Purushas in this lifetime?
Many. Many. Keep doing sadhana deeply with all the sincerity of your heart, and your liberation is guaranteed.
But when we see the situation in your mission, and we see the split and groupings, though we are all bonded by connection.
Not all are bonded. There are indeed different groupings.
Is there any eventual future unity, not based on organization, but based on the mission and purpose?
Those who have bond of heart and mind will be together. Those who have true bond to Guru will stay with Guru. Those who have different mission, different intensities, will go that way. There are young souls and old souls, ones who have gone deep in their understanding and knowledge, and ones who are young, beginning. They need guidance. All right, is there more?
Baba, do people require, as part of the expansion and development of their personality, to have from time to time some seemingly stagnant periods to live amidst the changes they've made in their minds and in their hearts and lives, in order to integrate it before they take another big push forward somehow?
Some get stuck for lifetimes upon lifetimes. Some go like a rocket. There is no norm. There is no requirement. If you dedicate yourself to the divinity which lies within all beings, with heart, mind, and soul, and you surrender everything, then the illusion of I falls away, and the pure light of effulgent grace engulfs your awareness. You need no time, you need no preparation, you need nothing but to be willing to let go. And give your all and everything to the infinite. Surrender your individuality to that cosmic existence. That is all. Doesn't require any waiting time. Doesn't require any efforts. You need do nothing before you do it. Just do it. That's all you need do. All else is a game of the mind until you are ready to do it. All right?
Yes.
Is there more?